Hello and welcome to another episode of Magic 101. Today we're going to be discussing ancient high-level spells. And just hearing me say that should tell you exactly what they are. These spells are considered the most powerful ones in existence. Most offensive spells are generally used against one person, or at most a group of people. These are all large-scale anti-army attacks. There are 4 of them, and we're going to be going over all of them in this video. They share a few traits that set them apart from other magic. First of all, the incantations for these are done in ancient Greek, which is significant because magic is usually cast in Latin. This sort of implies that these spells are older than all the others, because ancient Greece is older than ancient Rome. Well, that, and the fact that the word ancient is literally in the name. I imagine that they were created before Rome invaded Greece. I don't know if that has anything to do with their power. Maybe magic was just a lot stronger back then. The incantations are structured very similar as well. They all have 4 lines instead of the standard 3, and they all invoke the power of an elemental king or ruler of some kind, as you'll see in a minute. Which is what I like to call them, the ancient king spells. You gotta admit, that rolls off the tongue a lot better. The ancient high-level fire spell is Orania Phlogosis, which means burning sky, or blazing heat in the sky, depending on the translation. Its incantation is, oh boy, Tu symbolion deconato moi, o turane flogos, epiganatheto flox catharsios flogin romphia, rustanton por kai theon, ha epepligon sodoma, hamartolos eis chon thanato, orania phlogosis, which I'm sure I've pronounced 100% correctly, but in English all that translates to, heed the contract and serve me, tyrant of flame. Come, flame of purification, fiery broadsword. Fire and brimstone surge forth, burn Sodom, turn the sinners to the dust of death. Burning heat in the sky. This is the spell that Chao uses in the climax of the school festival. It creates a massive torrent of fire around the enemy, so strong it can nearly one-shot Neji, even when he had his magic barriers open to its maximum. Neji was actually able to overpower it a second time, with Jovis Tempistus Vulgaris, which is a whole order of magnitude lower than Burning Sky. But that was mostly because his incantation was shorter. His spell had already crossed about 2/3 of the distance by the time she finished chanting. This immediately put her on the defensive, and her artificial magic abilities were already putting a massive strain on her body. So she just kinda shorted out. We only ever see this spell used exactly one way, as a concentrated beam of heat that explodes when it hits its target. But the incantation implies a sort of fire rain that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah in the biblical story. Chao was only fighting one person, so it makes sense that she would focus all her firepower on him. But there may also be a wide-range, area of effect version of this spell. Oddly enough, I don't know who this Tyrant of Flame is supposed to be. In Greek mythology, Hephaestus is the god of fire, but he definitely isn't a tyrant. In fact, he's one of the nicer Greek gods, so I don't think the incantation is referencing him. Maybe it's a personification of fire itself. I don't know. The ancient high-level ice spell is Cosmic Catastrophe, Greek for end of the world. I know that sounds really melodramatic, but there is another variation of the spell called Frozen Cosmos, or Frozen Earth, which if you ask me is a much more appropriate name, and it just sounds cooler. Cosmic Crystallopegia. The incantation is Tu symbolion deconato moi, he crystalline basilia, epigonantheto Tionian erebos, Hyoni crystal, passais zos ton ison thanaton, hos ataraxia, cosmic catastrophe, which again is pronounced 100% correctly, and translates to, "Heed the contract and serve me, Queen of Ice. Come, unending darkness, eternal glacier. Bring death to all that has life, eternal rest. End of the world." This spell freezes everything within a 50-meter radius, which is already an insane feat, but it doesn't just freeze things. Cosmic catastrophe drops the temperature to absolute zero, negative 273 degrees Celsius, or 0 degrees Kelvin. You have to understand, this isn't just cold, this is actually impossible. Absolute zero was the point where an atom loses all its kinetic energy and stops moving completely. It would be one thing for a particle to have a small amount of energy, but none at all? That just can't happen in nature. Even if we were to assume that this spell only drops the temperature to a few degrees above absolute zero, which actually is possible, removing that much heat from so much space would still take an astronomical amount of energy. Freezing moisture is really basic for an ice mage, but to so completely bypass the laws of thermodynamics takes an incredible amount of magical skill. That's why, even though they're in the same class, this spell is considered slightly higher than Burning Sky. When Evangeline used it in Kyoto, it was able to completely encase and freeze the giant demon Ryuman Sukuna no Kami. At this point, once the target is captured, the mage has the option to shatter the ice, destroying anything inside with the command "Break Ba," or break, and a snap of their fingers. Alternatively, they can alter the final pass to the incantation by substituting "End of the World" with "Frozen Cosmos," Cosmic Crystallopegia, to seal the opponent in ice permanently. The only ice spell that can potentially match it, or maybe even exceed it, is Endless White Nine Heavens, but because Evangeline invented that spell during the series, it's not considered an ancient high-level spell. The Thousand Thunderbolts is the most powerful lightning spell in existence. It's a full 10 times more powerful than Jovis Tempistus Vulgaris, which, just a reminder, is what Neji uses here to rip this giant monster in half. When Neji first used it, he destroyed half the 50-meter wide boulder, and the surface of the remaining half was melted into slag. And this was before he completed it, so it wasn't even at full power. The incantation is "Tu Symbolion Diconotomoi Basilu Oranion Epigan Theto Aethalos Charon Host Titanis Pheren Hekatontakas Kai Kiliakas Astrapsato Kiliapel Astrape," or something like that anyway. In English, it's "Heed the contract and serve me, O King of the skies. Come forth, Titan-slaying blazing thunder. Hurl down thy lightning 100 times and even 1,000 times. 1,000 thunderbolts." The King of the Sky here is obviously Zeus, who was the Greek god of the sky and thunder. For the standard version of the spell, the mage gathers lightning in their hand and throws it like a grenade. Of course, it explodes on contact and electrifies everything around it. There's also a really lengthy incantation you can add to the base incantation to specify an area of effect. When it does, a series of magic circles appear around the target, and lightning shoots out from them. There's one more variation where you can add the word "produgum" to the end of the original incantation, and this just causes the lightning to come down from above the intended target. Neji also uses the spell as a basis for most of his Magia Erebia techniques, but that's really not what this video is about. Tearing Earth summons a mass of lava to attack the opponent. Unlike the other Ancient King spells, this one is chanted in Latin, like most magic, but it is structured the same as the other three, with 4 lines instead of 3, and calls on the power of an elemental king. Parit pactum et servet mihi rex inferni, veniet fractura telestrius adore torrente absorbens ad ultimos oscu. In reget astuec Deus terrestris rune ardentis, terra findens, meaning, heed the contract and serve me, King of Hades. Come, cracking of the earth, torrent of scorching heat, engulfing the furthest reaches. Seethe and surge forth, earth god of burning ruination, tearing earth. The King of Hades phrasing might sound a little weird, but in Greek mythology, Hades can refer to the god Hades or the literal place of the underworld. For some reason, these incantations seem to not want to mention the gods directly by name. And Hades is the god of the underworld, not just the dead. He has domain over literally anything under the Earth's surface, which includes lava. Which is probably why he's referenced here instead of Hephaestus. I don't know why this one is chanted in Latin, but we know it's just as strong as the others, because it matched Neji's 1,000 thunderbolts. You might think that maybe Earth just has to be cast in Latin for some reason, but no, there are actually several other lower level Earth spells that are done in ancient Greek, which is also really weird. I don't know if Akamatsu just dropped the ball here, or if there's actually a deeper meaning. Like, maybe this spell was invented in ancient Rome instead of ancient Greece, and it's slightly less ancient than the other three. Like Burning Sky, it doesn't seem to have an inherent area of effect. We only get to see it once, and we don't really get a very good look at it. I don't know if the lava is supposed to fly toward the opponent, or just explode out of the ground or what. It's used at super close range, but I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that's not how it's intended to be cast. Because it's used against 1,000 thunderbolts, and that's definitely a long range spell. Also, it's, lava. You probably don't want that stuff spilling on your clothes. Considering Fate was literally holding hands with Neji when he used it, he probably just had to make do. But I imagine in an ideal situation, he would summon a ball of lava and shoot it across the battlefield. But those are all the ancient high-level spells. There are a few spells you could definitely argue are on par with them, like Incendium Gehenna, or like I already mentioned, Endless White Nine Heavens. Yeah, we're definitely going to get to that one sooner or later. But I think we'll stop here today. As always, thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. If you have any questions or anything you want me to cover in a future video, then go ahead and leave it in the comments. And until next time, just remember, a little bit of courage is the real magic.